Hello and welcome to your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 7th of November. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you an overview of what we can all expect collectively, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in forensic detail each of the signs from Aries through to Pisces and the key influences for each of those. Now, this week sees on Tuesday a total lunar eclipse, an event which is going to provide an influence for the next 6 months. Now, the sign of Taurus where this occurs is actually where the moon is rather happy. It's exalted in the sign of Taurus, so it's its second favourite location after being domiciled in the sign of Cancer, but it's very close to the planet of disruption, Uranus. And if you recall, over the last couple of years, Uranus and the planet of restriction, Saturn, in the sign of the collective, Aquarius, have off and on been grating in an attritional and stressful right angle called a square. Now that threads its way through this event. Now, we also have close to the Moon and Uranus the North Node, a very significant point in terms of our collective destiny, but on the other side of the heavens, we have the Sun, Mercury and Venus all in Scorpio. The significance of the cluster in Taurus, the cluster in Scorpio, and the position of Saturn is they're all in fixed signs. Fixed signs prefer continuity. They're happier with knowing how things are, maintaining a degree of stability. So Uranus is pushing us to be more outspoken about our rights in terms of our self-worth. So we're seeing a lot of protest and dissent, but also we're seeing the cost of living crisis, and a lot of that is because the second house of Taurus governs food and food distribution. Now obviously we also have the sign of Taurus being an earth sign, very much about the environment and the cost of utilities to heat our homes, to cook with, to light our homes as well. All these are hot topics. So the way people are relating to the right angle between Uranus and Saturn, and have been over the last couple of years, whether it's big government, big business, individuals, collective associations, such as citizens, finding an outlet through social media, or perhaps union output, is that everybody has a different take on how they want changes to occur. And it's obvious that some kind of reset is occurring, and we need to try to adapt to deal with this, and it's really not easy. Now, concurrent to this, the two rulers of the sign of Scorpio are in conflict, Mars and Pluto. So Pluto's in the part of the horoscope that's to do with wanting to maintain the old world order, so big government, big business. But Mars is in the part of the zodiac which is to do with how we think and articulate our ideas, but it's now in retrograde. But they're not on good terms. So this adds to the strident mix that's bubbling up. Also, Mars is in a right angle to Neptune, the planet of dreams and the ephemeral world. And this is creating a lot of illusions, a lot of dishonesty, quite honestly. And we're finding that more and more stories about corruption and dishonesty, particularly around money and people looking out for their friends when they have influence, or we're also seeing sexual impropriety. A lot of stories are coming to the open. So all of this is going to be quite a feature over the next 6 months. But please stay with me as I decipher all of this for each of your 12 zodiac signs. But if you would like to understand what year 2023 will hold for you as an individual based on Sirius astrology, and rise above your zodiac forecast, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can produce your forecast for next year. And in my special package, you get the rest of this year free, and also your life roadmap, your character analysis, which helps you to understand some of the patterns that have repeated themselves, perhaps more difficult energies, but also help you to have greater understanding of your opportunities. And there's 30% off. Please see the link below. Finally, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for joining me. I'd love it if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. If you're an ongoing viewer, thank you so much for all your support. So Sagittarius, your week commencing the 7th of November forecast, to me kind of suggests that something that's been building up for a couple of years in terms of its awkwardness could reach a climax. Now, you're a sign that likes to project a sense of enthusiasm, and you have a great ability to absorb knowledge. You're brilliant company, but because the square between Saturn and Uranus has been impacting on how you think, your ideas, but also your nervous system, the third house, with your sixth house, where the restless Uranus has been, your commitments to others, your obligations, but also your health, it may have been that the intensity of this particular right angle over the last couple of years has been quite wearing at times. And I think because you have Mercury, the Sun, and Venus all gathered in your 12th house of the psychological sphere, and they're being opposed by the total lunar eclipse, which of course feeds into the square between Uranus and Saturn, I think if something has been dogging you, that you've been finding difficult, whether it's a job that's dull or boring or too predictable, or you don't feel much sense of gratification from the role you have, or you feel that your need for stimulation and spontaneity is also being stifled in some way, this all reaches that climax that I mentioned. But the great news is there are always ways forwards. I think the thing to do is to almost let yourself go with this. Don't fight it. If there are things that need to change in your world that don't appear to be very sexy options at this particular stage, some small adjustments at a physical level can actually make quite a lot of difference at an emotional level. So, try to create a bit of space for yourself if there are a lot of demands. One of the things that I feel that archers, sorry, I couldn't resist that. I do have Mars in Sagittarius. That archers really need is that space. So this right angle between Saturn and Uranus, very constraining. But if you can just make some small changes to have that walk for yourself, read a book, get away from digital technology, have some moments of space from the demands, that will help to soothe your adrenal system in a positive way. Of course, Mars slowing down in your sector of relating is in a right angle with Neptune in your sector of emotion. Now, if the tensions are showing in a close personal relationship, it may simply because you have felt edgy, and Mars slowing down in your 7th house of relating is clashing with Neptune, which means that it can be difficult to sort of exchange how each of you feels without it feeling tense. But Mars in the 7th house slowing down can also help you to rethink how you approach your boundaries or how you explain things. Neptune since 2012 in Pisces has probably seen you grow hugely in terms of your emotional awareness and understanding not just what you need, but also what others need too, because that absolute preference you have to be on the front foot and dynamic and positive and self-assured is such a great trait, but as I've said many times before, it hasn't always given you permission to stop and just accumulate and work through your emotional situation. So in a relationship in environment, if things are a bit slowed and aren't very clear, extra patience is going to be required on the back of this eclipse, to be honest. Maybe money, like it is a big issue for many of us at the moment. Pluto, of course, is in your second house of everyday money. But Pluto's also about deep, very, very deep stuff. So the second house can, of course, be about your self-worth. So I think the slowing down Mars can help you to assert your boundaries. You just need to be clear about why you need to do that or when you need to do that. And that can help you to deal with this edginess, this buzzy vibe that has dominated over the last few years. And it's really just encouraging you, this eclipse, to integrate yourself in a holistic way, to not just see life in a more practical sphere and not be hung up that we all have worries, we all have concerns, we all have vulnerabilities, and to integrate those into you and see that actually the more you accept that more shadow side of your nature, the stronger it's going to make you feel and help you to emerge from this square, which does actually start to free up from the 2nd, 3rd of December.